Okay, now that we've learned what we need to know about the CPU, let's get on to the project. As we go down here to the CPU presentation section of the Moodle site, see the lesson that you should have already finished if you're watching this video, and then the presentation information down here. Now, I've got the presentation itself, which I'll open up here in just a second, as well as some information, including this and other videos, if you need to review it, as well as a bunch of sites that you're going to need to look at in order to do the presentation. So I'll open that up. And then this is a socket list that I actually took off of Wikipedia. So let's talk about the presentation first. Again, it's a research project. The idea of a research project is that you don't know everything, you know the starting things, and you're supposed to look up those things that specifically connect with your part of this project. So every single time you get to something you don't know, Google it. Don't just gloss by a word and say, I don't know what that is. The idea is that you're supposed to be finding out what it is. So when we go to things, and if I say things in videos, or there's something on a website, and you're like, don't just let it give you the hot head sensation, I don't know what that is, and it confuses me. Look it up and read about it. That's what a research project is. Overview of this project is that 10 to 15 minutes in length. I don't like saying number of slides. I don't like saying specific times because different students present in different ways and can get the same information across. You are a sales rep from either Intel or AMD, depending on which one you had in your motherboard presentation. And you're going to present two CPUs during this research project. You're going to present it as a representative from Intel or AMD. Again, you're a sales rep, and you're going to tell us about the company, just like you told us about your motherboard company. But now, instead of talking about Asus or MCI or whatever, or Gigabyte or whatever motherboard company, now you're from Intel or AMD, and I want to make sure you understand that. And you're presenting two CPUs from your company for those motherboards. So the two CPUs should be the fastest CPU available for your gaming motherboard. So you have to go back and get that CPU slide from your motherboard presentation, and if you didn't have a separate CPU slide, you need to make one that says, okay, I've got the Intel or the Gigabyte whatever motherboard, and the CPUs that go with this motherboard are this. And you're going to present that motherboard first, and then you're going to tell us what CPUs go with it. Obviously, that's what you're presenting us. And then you're going to say, okay, the fastest of these is the Intel i7 3300, whatever it is. And then you're going to go into the presentation about and give us more specifics about the CPU. And the minimum specifications, you're going to tell us the clock speed. Hopefully you'll be able to find the bus speeds that supports, what motherboard bus speeds, what kind of cache it has, because as we said earlier in this lesson, that CPUs are rated both on their clock speeds as well as their cache, as well as their number of processors. So the type and size of the cache that it has. The socket type obviously should match the socket of the motherboard. If it doesn't match the socket type of the motherboard, you've broken your presentation right away. So you need to make sure that the CPU you're presenting will fit in the motherboard that you presented previously. Tell us what kind of, or the number of processors, and then anything else you can find noteworthy about that. When you go to, for instance, Tom's Hardware, which I'm going to show you that thing in a second, and you are showing us the fastest for your motherboard, if it's the fastest that they make, that is something noteworthy. Not only are you showing us, hey, this is really fast, but it is the fastest. There's nothing faster. Or if it's the fastest for that socket type, or anything you can give us, a good price comparison, which is the next thing on there. We need to know how much it costs. It again has to have a link that you can click on to show us where you found it at that price. Again, it has to be new, can't be a used processor, which has happened several times with students, and then finally an MLA formatted, works cited, just like we did on the motherboard project. So you're going to do that for the fastest for your gaming motherboard, and then you're going to go on to do the cheapest for your home PC. And these are very dynamically opposed things. You know, you're going to see that you might spend $800 for the fastest for your gaming, and you should be able to get the cheapest for your home at the $50 range. And they may not be crazy different in speeds. Now, they'll probably be different in the number of processors and the amount of cache, but you're going to see that the clock speeds may not be enormously different. Again, you have to present the motherboard that you did for your project for your home PC, present which CPUs and what CPU socket that motherboard takes, and then make sure that the CPU that you select matches up with that. So that's the basic overview of the project, and you already saw a little video previous to this on an example one. That is also here on this CPU information thing example, and this project overview video, as soon as I upload it, will be right there. There's a link on understanding CPU cache. There's this one on CPU comparisons, which I'm going to go ahead and open up, and this is what I was talking about. If I go through and pick one of these different ways, and I like picking a high-end video game, so I'm going to pick Crysis. I see that the fastest CPU for 2013 for this game, and that's, you have to understand, it's this year's CPUs for this game, so when you click on other ones, you're going to see something different. But it was the i7 3770K Ivy Bridge processor. This is the fastest one, and it's got links to, you can get that particular processor for $327. And look, this one's $1,049, and it didn't perform as well as that one. So cost is not what you're looking at. It's speed, and I didn't specify which one of these you should look at, but it obviously should be a game, and maybe you want to pick a game and say, hey, I want that game on high settings. So you can see a bunch of different ways that they analyzed the CPU. So that's what that link in particular is for. And then there's links specifically to the Intel CPU site and the AMD CPU site, because you're going to have to go there in order to get more specific information about your processor. So if I was going and looking at that i7, I'd want to click there. And if I looked back at that benchmark, just to make sure I'm picking the exact one, it's the i7-3377K, which isn't even on this list. Let me look and go back one to the third generation, which may be why it's cheaper. There's the 377K right there. So then I'm going to go and click on that, and here's where I get all the information about it. Number of cores, number of threads, clock speed, all that information that you want to have and incorporate into your presentation. You have to go to the manufacturer's site. To find that in, along with that, you'll have to list that on your Works Cited when you do go there. So that's some of those links that are on here. Also on there is a link to the sockets and what the manufacturers are, the blue or Intel, the green or AMD's, and just kind of shows you the list of sockets as they came out, which you may need to do with your presentation as well. Okay, so that's the basics of the CPU project. Again, you should have gone through the whole lesson first, which you should be able to get done in one day, but if you take your time and you rewatch some of it and you take notes, maybe it takes you into day 2. I don't really think it should, but then you should be able to get into the project on day 2 and finish it by Friday or the second half of day 3. Again, make sure that you're checking the rubric while you're working on your presentation and making sure you have that information in here that you should have, and you should be printing out the rubric and have it ready for class on presentations the day I get back that Monday. sorry, that Tuesday. This is for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for the week of 6th January in 2014. And this PowerPoint check, I've got the wrong date on there, but I do have the right date on the other part of it. But just so you know, on Thursday, everyone has to have something uploaded for me to check your progress so far. So please make sure that by the end of class on Thursday that you do have that uploaded. So this should say, I have it right on here, the 8th, but it should say actually it should say 9, shouldn't it? It should be that Thursday, and that there'll be a grade on that. So make sure that you get that uploaded as well. I tried to redo the recordings and redo everything for you so it'd be set out as well as possible and as straightforward as possible. However, please email me as soon as possible if you have any questions. This is a fairly easy project as far as there's only two CPUs that you need to find and present. However, if you do it right, you should be reading this additional information here. You should be going through these, and you should be looking up information so you understand the CPUs that you're presenting during this project.